it's the proudest day and the proudest time in the seat of a rally car, because that day and that hour and those minutes, I got the bit between my teeth. You know, I really stood up and was counted and said, this is not getting away. I remember when we pulled on our helmets and Donnelly says to me, what are we doing? I said, we're going for gold, Barrett. That's all was said. I can still picture that run. That was just the best run ever.
Welcome along to Krunching Gears, the rally podcast. The new season's upon us already. We're into 2023. That's hard to believe, isn't it, Connor?
It is indeed, and a very happy new year, Kevin, to yourself and all the listeners.
Yeah, I echo your sentiments there. Totally happy new year to yourself and everybody. It's been 2022 was a fantastic year, and here's hoping for more of the same in 2023. Really, so.
Absolutely, and I think we're gonna knock it out of the ballpark from the get-go with what we have lined up for today.
It is. This is one of them things that you dream of who you'd love to interview, and this is one of those names that's definitely up there. Whenever this guest agreed to come on, it was a bit of a, oh my god. So we're going to have to talk to him now, But what a pleasure it was. Paul Nagle, what can we say? Blew me away with the chat. It was an absolute pleasure to chat to Paul, and just to say thank you very much, Paul. It was a pleasure from our point of view, wasn't it, Connor?
Oh no, listen, we were delighted and blown away. We honestly didn't expect Paul would have the time because, with obviously just retiring and still very much a part of what's going on in the world of rallying, both at home and abroad, we didn't think he'd have the time, let alone in the run up to Christmas as well. So it was just phenomenal that he took time out to speak with us.
Absolutely. And, not only took time out, put a lot of effort in from his side as well. The detail he goes into in the conversation, it is just, it's a joy for us and a way to listen to. And I hope that comes across, as always, please, can you like, share, comment, rate, all those things, makes a huge difference, But, Paul Nagle is going to go down in the Irish history of rallying as one of the most successful entrants ever.
Absolutely. And at times, maybe, his career has been overlooked, but, phenomenal 102 WRC starts, 5 WRC wins, 18 podiums. He's also been Irish Tarmac champion. He's been the IRC champion. And I forget how many fastest stage times, thrown in there as well. So phenomenal career over a space of 18 years in the WRC side of things anyway.
Absolutely. And we start right back at the very beginning and work our way throughout his career, And I started off by asking him, what was it, growing up? Was it football or rallying?
As a young lad, all grew up, it was rally, but obviously Kerry back in the late 80s and early 90s when I was a young lad growing up, it was obviously the prominent sport in Kerry and in Ireland as well. Sure, Kerry were winning everything in GA, but rallying was for me there was never a conflict. I was brought everywhere from a young lad, from marshalling to timekeeping to organising rallies, and it was always in the blood here. It was always at home. My dad was heavily involved in the Rally of the Lakes since the start in 1978, and I was only a young nipper up and racing around, watching the likes of Austin MacHale and Billy Coleman, and the Mantas and the Porsches, and so it was always going to be destiny that I was going to go down in the motorsport industry, and if you saw me playing football anyway, I wouldn't be wearing the Kerry jersey anyway. I wouldn't be. That's for sure. Anyway, I actually broke more bones playing football than in rallying, and that sums the whole thing up really.
And you mentioned your dad there, Morris, as you say, was a huge part of the Rally of the Lakes, and then later on the historic rally. Do you remember the first time that you sat in the rally car? Was there cars always coming and going about the house? And do you remember your first time jumping in and smelling that, having that smell going through your veins?
Yeah, it was always the early days when the rally was obviously in December, the international rally. You'd have always boys parking their trailers and cars in the garage on the Friday evening, and for scrutineer and everything. That was the first taste of it for a weekend when I was a young lad. But I always got him with my dad when he built his Lotus Cortina. We did a bit of a test in O'Peely Pass when it was built many years ago, and he was heavily involved as well with Liam McCallan and James O'Brien inside in the Salika days. He did all the gravel notes and they helped out in the team coordination. So there were Nieper and there were Flanders and they did Summer Championship in the 185 and the 205. So I got a run with Liam in Healy Pass back in if I'm guessing, 94. So that was the first time really inside in a big car where there was a big launch in Healy Pass with that. So that was the early days of rallying, and you'd always follow around my dad and his friends and everything. And if you got to spin the car, even jumped into the car and sat into the car, that was enough when you're growing up. And that was what more to me than having a football or a golf club or anything, just to be around the engine, around inside the car and everything, and just follow on from listen to him and what he's wanted to do and what he said, and obviously he started doing the historic rally then back in the mid-90s, and that's where the whole dream started for me, really.
Yeah, and was that one of your first events then, was the historic rally too, back in the mid-90s then?
Yeah, 96, yeah, the first historic rally. Myself and my one of my best mates at home, Paul Ahern, we went off to Cork to buy an Opel Corsa and brought down our school uniforms when we were young lads. And I had to park it in my shed at home because his parents didn't know he had bought a rally car. So I got convinced my dad to leave us do something, just leave us up Malls Gap, whatever you could do, just do something for us. So we had to hand out sandwiches, and we didn't adventurous day. We handed out all the sandwiches, we had a couple of spins and slides, and probably with Patterson paste nuts, delivering sandwiches as well at the same time. But it was my first experience of a closed road. Was 96 in the Corsa, and from then on, it was a one-way journey, really.
Yeah. And you very quickly rose through the ranks. Only 19, 20 years of age, you were sitting with Kieran and Nagle. At that stage, Kieran and Nagle was, the modified guy. He was always the star in RPM. That was an interesting combination. This young Kerry guy starting out, and Kieran, this wide boy from Belfast. How did that all fall into place?
I went out to the Isle of Man rally so I won 2019. I went out the Isle of Man rally in 97 as a holiday out. Dad was starting to promote the rally more internationally after the first historic rally. So we got out to the Isle of Man. I met Kieran out, and if the truth was known, it was my first time I ever had a sociable drink and fell in with those clientele and all around the streets of Douglas. And he asked, that was in September, yeah. So he asked, would you ever go rallying? And I said, yeah, I'm trying to get in there. And I did a few rallies with Paul at home, 00 and a couple of rallies. But he said to me, so I'll bring you for a rally. And then came 90, if I'm right in saying 98. We went off and did the modified championship in Ireland back then, or whatever it was, the national. And we won the best 2 litre in Killarney in 98. Which would have given us the Sean Conlon Trophy, which was the boy that drowned in the lakes many years before that, and that was a big thing for me to get that as well, because there was a somber time in Killarney when that happened. And then we went on to win the historics that year, and to win the historics, obviously, and my dad won the rally as well. It was a very special occasion, but Kieran took me under his wing that time, and I probably bypassed a lot of the apprenticeship years by getting in with Kieran, because obviously, as you said, he was high profile, and I kind of worked my way from there. And as a young fella, I believed in myself. I was always believed in my own ability, and I could take on a challenge. I got in with Kieran. A lot of people didn't think I was up for it, but I always look back, and he was the man that started me on the ladder. And there's been a lot of steps in the ladder, but to get on the ladder to success and to get into the WRC and everything, you need some kind of a base. And he put me in the first couple of steps, and I missed kindergarten, if you want to call it a better way. And he taught me a lot of things, and I learned a lot. I learned an awful lot with that crowd.
Some of it to do with rallying, I suppose.
I learned the socialising side, and I learned the rallying side, and I learned a lot of the rights and wrongs of life. And I was only a kid back then, but Kieran always kept me kept me in his wing, and to this day, I still regard him as a friend, and he was very, very good to me. And
Eugene Donnelly then come a calling in 2000 to 2002. Eugene was starting to become a familiar name on the stages. Was starting to become the star that we knew how he developed into that. Was that it was obviously a step up from Kieran, but was there a step up in pressure as well, or did you thrive in that?
I probably worked on it a lot. I started doing the forestry rallies in the north, and driving on blind notes, on Patterson's blind notes as well, which was a big learning curve in the forestry. And obviously I was bursting to get into the G3, which is the famous G3, and I wasn't probably, I hadn't enough experience on the tarmac to go in with him, but I was learning faster in the forestry. I did the Bushwhacker in Nagle and the Toshiba back in the day, and we did the full Southern forestry as well. And we finished second at racing Brian Murphy all year. I think it was Brian, yeah, with a couple of great battles, and we did the BDA there. But my first taste of the G3 was in Cavan in 2000, and I think we were third overall there. And then it was the first year that the whole controversy over the international and the national and the modified cars were split and everything. And that was the first year where I felt, geez, there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of controversy. There's a lot of hassle. All these modified boys are getting very angry because Eugene was fit to beat most of the boys, a lot of the boys in the world cars, and he was finishing fourth and fifth in rallies. And all of a sudden, I think it was Killarney. Killarney. He said, "No, there's no more. You have to be separate, national and international." And went off to win the national. And Killarney went through a hedge, obviously, in Luckaloo and the same stage at Andrew Nesbitt, famously ran out of few.
Oh yes.
And went off to Donegal again, and you know, you hear about the Donegal national is nearly more sought after than the international. And I was fortunate enough to win the very first one. Thinking at the time it was terrible. Geez, why can't we be getting overall result here? I think we're maybe 6th or 7th overall, but we were on being classified. It's a terror, and there was a lot of hassle over. But look back now and have your name on the national in Donegal is nearly as big as winning the international. Yeah. But yeah, I learned a lot from Eugene. Eugene was had been around a long time. He'd co-drive and drove as well, and he taught me a lot about pace notes and organisation, how to present myself inside and outside the car. It was a big stepping stone again, coming from Kieran into Eugene, and then to go a step forward in 2001 was probably foot and mouth, was it?
Yeah. Yep.
And there was obviously no rallying in Ireland most of that year. Is more to be right in saying that, would I?
You're right, yeah, because you kind of started then to spread your wings a bit across the water. Done some of the 106 Cup things like that there with the likes of Rory and Gary and Sean Gallagher. That was 01, 02 type time.
One, and it was foot and mouth year. That's right. I got in with I did the last 2 rounds of Rory Gallagher that year, and he needed to co-drive for the Scottish and the Silverstone rally, and he won the rallies and won the championship that time. But I also got in doing gravel notes with Martin Rowe, Niall McShea, and Rory, between Bobby Willis and a few more of the World Championship. That was the first taste really of World Championship. Was doing gravel notes. Was for Bobby was co-driving the World Championship with Abdullah Bakashab, and he got myself and Martin Rowe, and obviously Rory as well in Greece. So that's where I got to know Rory, and that's how the whole thing kind of got me into the World Championship, and I got to taste that for the first time, and got in and saw the likes of Colin McRae and Nicky Christ and Phil Mills and all these boys inside in San Remo in 2001, and the putting them out was bad for Irish motorsport, but it gave me another side of motorsport. That this is not bad. I wouldn't mind going this way, and I continued in 2002 with Eugene I didn't get to drive with Rory in the factory car. Obviously, I did 2 rallies, and obviously Mark Fisher passed away that year in Berkeley in a tragic accident. And Rory Gordy obviously was co-driving for Mark, and he was the right person to sit in with Rory to follow me. I did 2 rallies, and I wasn't ready, and if I went in there, I wouldn't have lasted to go into a factory car in the British Championship. It wouldn't been right. No. So
But even you were what, 21, 22 at that stage, and going and sampling the WRC doing gravel, like you must have been looking around pinching yourself really at that stage, were you?
I was, yeah. I was in awe of some of it, watching what goes on, and see all the, like that back there was all the cigarette money of Marlboros and Marlboro and 555 and you had Movie Star and Ford and everything, and it was huge. Like the World Championships back there, Mitsubishi were there as well, and it was huge back in the day. But I just put my head down and said, yeah, we'll try and get there some stage, but I'll have to do a bit of groundwork for a while. And then in 2002, I also did the last of the year. James O'Brien's co-drive for Gary Jennings in that year, the Cup, and I was sitting in Rory last couple of rallies, and obviously James with Andrew Nesbitt as well. So that Gary's seat came available for 2002. and because James couldn't go again, I think he was stopgap with Gary and obviously Rory, and so I was left in with Gary. So that's how the whole thing started with Gary, and I was sitting with Eugene as well at the same time in 2002, and I started with both championships with both of them, and came to, I think, myself and Gary won the first couple of rounds, and the Pirelli was a back-to-back, and was clashing with the Forestry. So Eugene was in the Celica in the Forestry, and I was leading, and I had another crossroads again, another angle. I said, "Well, what am I going to do here? I can't do both." So after again, I opted to go like my future has to be if I stay in the BRC with Gary, and I had to turn down Eugene, and I left Eugene that time. I finished out the Forest Championship, but that's where Paul Kiley got in with Eugene from then, and obviously Eugene went on to win 5 or 6 titles in a row, and I went on to win the Peugeot Cup in 2002.
Yeah. I think, and that, for Gary at that stage and for yourself, like that was massive. Like that one make championship at that time, like there was probably maybe 30 cars turning up for each event. To come out and top there, that was something. We don't probably give Gary Jennings the credit he was due at that time.
It was probably the most competitive championship back then. As you said, 30 cars. You had Kris Meeke, you had Rory Gallagher previously, you had Ryan Champion, you had Gary, Sean Gallagher. It was relentless. Every rally, it was battles left, right, and centre. And to be fair, I think Gary learned a lot in 2001 and the first year, and put him out and was quick at the start. And 2002, he was definitely the cream of the crop and go on and win the championship. And it was the right man won the championship. But the competition during the year was fierce, and it was very intense. And when there's big money involved, winning a prize and a factory car and everything, it just raises the whole bar and the whole championship. And it's something we lack in Ireland now, and we lack in the UK as well. That these one make championships really sharpen you up as a driver and co-driver, because when you have such a big prize, every second counts, and every mistake is a big mistake. And back then, if you made a mistake and you cost a victory, the championship's over.
Like a half spin or anything could just lose. But maybe the difference between first and fifth, really, like whenever it's tenths of a second here and a fraction of a second there, it's crazy, wasn't it? So, but excuse me. Excuse me. 2002, then Donny O'Sullivan closer to home as well. You got an opportunity to sit with him in the Group N cars, and Donny started then to progress up through. Was that just again the local man, or how did that seat come about?
Donny would be a neighbour. He lives across the road from me, and I would have been good friends with him all up through my rallying career. And tragically, his brother was killed in 2001, and there was no rallying. I was in foot him out, and 2002 we ended up doing Killarney in the Group N car, and we won Group N in Killarney as well. So. And my relationship with him continued on, obviously, and to this day still continues with a couple of great results. And Tony was a good driver, and we did Group N Super in 2002. And it was another box tick, another category one in Killarney, and any big results you can win in your home rally is a bonus. So he helped me in the early days to win Group N there.
Yeah, and they always say you learn from losing, but you also learn from winning. That experience that you got with him, you were able to carry that, and with Eugene and with Gary, all this that you're building up. This is stuff you're putting in your co-driver's bag that you are able to take to that next level. Donny, you went and done the round, was it Rally Spain? You were probably ready for the WRC at that stage. Probably the year previous, you'd have been a wee bit out of your depth, but you were there. You wanted to make your mark as much as Donny did that for that weekend, I would say.
Yeah, we did. We went to Rally Spain in 2004, and you felt you were ready for the World Championship. You felt you were, yes, you had enough experience done, but it was an eye opener out there. We did it on the side of M Sport. It was a massive experience. It was like everything from the moment we left home for recce's, and it was down in Ret de Mar in Rally Spain, where the famous Panizzi hairpin is, where he did the dance of the Peugeot many years ago. That was the last year, obviously, in Ret de Mar. So when we got around the rally, we finished in top, I think, 15th or 16th overall. But it was where I definitely, and you can't buy experience in the World Championship. You can't get experience, and you can't train for it. You need to be there. You need to be around the people. And when I got out of that rally and finished, and I said, right, that's it. Then I need to get. How do I get here, and how do I get here as quick as possible? I probably had I got my results in Ireland home. I was second in Killarney that year or the year before. it had to be, and I was racing all year with the MacHales and in 04 and Derek McGarity with myself and Donnelly with the championship and with a huge crash in Killarney. But yeah, at the end of the year to get Catalonia and to be running, as I said, alongside the M-Sport banner and dealing with the people and everything and trying to build up as I always say to co-drivers, anyone in World Championship, you have to build up a database and build up the P and get in with everyone and talk to everyone and every day is a school day, and I had to build it from there, and that was another step on the road.
Yeah, and like say at this stage now, you were like in your early 20s. Had you a trade to fall back on, or was it all channeled into co-driving?
Oh no, I would be clever enough that way. I was lucky enough to get into the ESB, which is a government job in the south,
Right.
and to this day I always had it, and I never lost it. And I was still working back then, obviously, because we're only doing rallies now and again. But you need something to fall back in. But it wouldn't bother me how I was working back then when I got my teeth into it and what I wanted to go and what my direction I wanted to do. There was no job or anything in the world going to stop me to get to the World Championship.
Yes, and like. Yeah, that opportunity then come around with the MacHales. You know, you talked about you had been racing them. You know, for Gareth to come along, you know, was that a phone call or was that like a chat somewhere? How did that all happen? That Gareth, was relatively inexperienced, had done the 206, but to step into a world car was like going to be a big step up for him as well.
Oh, it was, yeah, because he did some of the Peugeot Cups rounds as well, and I suppose I was racing Austin all year in 2004. And I'd get to know him well, and the MacHale family are obviously well renowned in Irish motorsport. And I think it was the prize giving at the end of the year. He said to me, "What was I doing next year?" I said, "I haven't a clue." And he said, "Would you sit with the young fella in Galway in the Corolla?" I said, why not?" And that's where it took off. He was going to do the Forestry Championship. We started with Galway, and we started with the Forestry Championship, and started with the BRC as well.
Mm-hmm.
And with all my rallying and forestry with Eugene and down through the years, I'd never won the Forest Championship second twice because I'd obviously missed rounds or skipped rounds or something else clashed. And I got in with Gareth to do. We did Galway, and then the rest of the forestry. We won the Forest Championship in 2005, and so it's a great way to learn your trade in the Forest Championship. You rock up on a Saturday evening or Sunday morning, get your pace notes, go through scrutining. There's so many stages. And you're driving blind, so it's like you're learning fast, and you're learning and what will be thrown against you. And obviously won that, and obviously a lot of pipeline. And you heard of Rally Ireland coming in this pipeline, and 2006 Gareth planned to do 9 rounds of the World Championship, and that's where the big journey started, and that's where the experience that I gained from that put me where I am today, really.
Yeah, again, like. That was unheard of at the time. Like, this Irish team going out and it wasn't just doing a round or 2 rounds. It was a substantial program that was being put in place as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm there certainly 8 or 9 rounds in 2006 in a brand new, and that was in the 2005 Focus, and we were more or less teammates with Matthew Wilson.
Yeah.
So, and it was the candidate Rally Ireland rally that year as well. So in Stormont, to get the World Championship rally. So we did. I think we did Monty, and we obviously went to Mexico and finished 6th, and we scored our first World Championship points. So that was another box ticked for me. And we went on to do Germany, Argentina, and Japan. With all the European rounds, Sardinia, Portugal. We'd 9. I think certain it was 9 rounds in 2006, and we had the candidate event as well in Rally Ireland. But the experience I learned, and what I thought I knew about motorsport, and what I thought I knew, and how good I was, and all before I got to this. I hadn't a clue. And it took me all that year to learn. But myself and Gareth learned well together. We were great mates, and we enjoyed ourselves, and we got a load of top 10 finishes. And obviously the standout would have been finishing 6th in Mexico. And it drew a lot of hype for the candidate event in Rally Ireland.
I got the ball really, it got probably people outside Ireland more focused on how good Ireland could be, and these guys weren't just this backwater. This, people from Ireland rallying could be taken seriously, because the following year you just had the brand new Focus, the same as the car that Marcus Grunholm was driving. Just with the first privateer, that's the first car time that had been released into privateer hands.
Yeah, that's right. It was we crashed out in the candidate event in 06, and the new car was coming for Galway. If I'm right in saying, ourselves and Marcus Brown were teammates in Galway that year. He showed up and he was getting a bit of practice in, like all the teams are when he had Loeb and Sordo in Cork. He went to Galway and so it was huge for us to be a teammates alongside him. But look, it was hyped up to the Rally Ireland with the Mitsubishis there, and we were in the focus with a big crash. And just so that clear the record, I was no late at that time. I think you had a chat with the MacHales a few months ago. There's plenty on boards to prove I called it plenty times anyway. But anyway, we'll move on from that. But 2007, it was another big year. We ended up Mexico again, but we struggled a bit with the 2007 car. Gareth didn't have the results, and then with a couple of reasonable results in Portugal, and with a huge accident in Sardinia, obviously, and went down a ravine, and we were both airlifted to hospital and everything, but which was a big damper in my rallying career at that time and everything.
And now this is probably an aside. To come back from an accident like that, do you, the next time you get back into a rally car, is there a fear there, or do you have to block it out and just continue, as if it never happened?
I did. You kind of worry about it, all right, at times. But I was doing so much rallying in 2006 and 2007. Every weekend was nearly a rally. I remember doing Cork Forest with Guy Wilkes. Myself and Gareth rode and rallying there the second week, and I had the Sucker of Ireland with Kris Meeke that year as well. He contacted me, my first time in touch with him, and he asked me to Sucker of Ireland, retired leading the rally. And I think when I retired after crashing in Sardinia, I had the next 2 or 3 months off. And to be fair, I had a good chat with myself over the summer and saying you need there's more to life. And Kris Meeke had spent a lot of time down in Killarney. He kind of enjoyed the social life down in my part of the world, and he'd been down a few times. And I kind of switched off from rallying that time, and I said, no, I need time out. It was when Kris came calling to do the Ulster in the Pirelli Subaru was again, as I said, there's plenty steps in the ladder. That's another step.
Yeah, like that, like for Kris Meeke to step into the Subaru at that time, like it was Mark Higgins had been using that car all year, and to go, step into the Ulster, tricky conditions. It was like a masterclass by the two of you. I think you were fastest on I think there were 16 stages. You were fastest on 13 of them, or whatever it was. I can't just remember right now. But that was a light in the talent of the two of you. Never mind Kris.
Yeah, it was Kris talked me back, and I wanted to go. I wanted to take a bit of time out, and Kris talked me to go to the Ulster. We'll go up and enjoy ourselves. And I think they're all the big hitters of Ireland were there. Andrew Hedges was in the S12V, and Eugene Donnelly was in the 12, and all these boys were on. We landed with the S11, and I didn't know we were fast in 13 to 16 today, but I knew we won the rally by nearly 3 minutes. And I remember it was wet and damp, and Kris got in and put on slicks in the first stage over. I can't remember what the name of the stages, but I were 14 or 15 quicker than anyone, and just led it from start to finish. And it was a special weekend, and it gave me the love of the sport to go back at it and have a go again, and enjoyed the whole rally. And it was my first international win. I had won West Cork and won a few rallies with Donnelly as well, obviously, but West Cork won an international rally back then, so it was my first big outright win in Ireland. And it was a good weekend. It was a special weekend.
Yeah, because whenever that rally, I think I'm now, somebody will probably tell me I'm wrong. I think you were fastest on 13, and the other 3 stages you were second fastest on. Whenever the things is so right in the car, is it almost easy, and whenever it's flowing like that?
It's never easy, but it depends on the caliber driver you're sitting with. Kris Meeke makes it easy most of the time. He can make it difficult the last time as well. But when he's on his moment, and in 2007 in the Ulster, he was on his own, and when he gets into a comfortable lead like that, and the speed he can carry, and he makes it look easy, makes it comfortable. And I'm able to adjust to him as well, and it pays not come easier to me as well when you're able to drive at that level and that comfort, and knowing that he's always in control.
Yeah, and between the jigs and the rails, there's a couple of years, but that kind of led on to the Peugeot UK drive, and the IRC at that time, the kind of predecessor to the European Rally Championship. You've always said that if you had the car, you just could win. and that year really proved it. Like at that time, the ARC was like global, and it just traveled the world. South America, across Europe, Asia. I think we just won. Just were competitive. Just won, and just won the championship. That must have been a massive boost for the both of you at that stage.
Yeah, like Kris was always it was one rally at a time, and when I did Rally Ireland, when we obviously did Rally Ireland
Oh yes, sorry.
in
Yes.
07, and we were third fast in the Stormons, and
Yes.
obviously I had the biggest decision of my rallying career before that to go with either Kris or Gareth, and it was a very difficult decision for me to make. But I feel I made the right decision, and to this day, I'll stand by it that I made the right decision. And if I wouldn't be where I am today without the MacHales, but if I didn't make the right decision, then I wouldn't be where I am today either, without Kris Meeke. So it was an awkward one. It was a difficult one. I didn't go down well for a long time, but look, again, I had to make my decisions in my career, and they're the decisions you have to make in life, and if you want to be successful in any sport, you have to make the hard decisions are the most difficult. And I did Rally Ireland, that was it. And obviously Gareth went off to win I'm right in saying he won the Tammany Championship the following year. And I was counting the Tammany Championships I'd lost without Eugene and with Gareth. And I had nothing here, only an Ulster Rally win. And I'm going, geez, I made some bad decisions. But in terms, I went off, and the whole thing kicked out. That's why I brought that back. The whole thing kicked off with Peugeot UK by finishing 5th in Clarny in the Clio.
Right.
And that took off to send us to Germany in the World Championship Rally in the Clio, and we went to Russia with the R3 Clio as well. And that's where we met Mark Van Dalen from Cronus, who was running the Freddie Lykes and Nicola Vues and whoever were back, and obviously Johan was driving for them as well. And we met him. We retired. We were driving the R3 car. It wasn't really reliable, and we met him after the rally in the bar chatting, and Mark said, "Geez, Kris, we could do get me out here." And that's where the whole thing kicked off. It just took off from there, and obviously the whole world crashed in 08, and geez, we'll never get this over the line. And eventually Peugeot UK stepped up with Cronus and Peugeot Sport and everything, and I was there starting the Monte Carlo with the fully draped Union Jack colours, and I was never as happy.
Kerry Bob, Union Jacket didn't
it looked well, very well. But we were we were having a great battle. That was the first time we were teammates with Sebastian O'Shea, and that was the first time he came to the fore, and he was teammates. He had an award of English, and he was our teammate driving the Michelin, or the BF Goodrich car was, and with Nicola Vues, who was the reigning champion, and Freddie Lykes, and with all the Skoda boys, Jan Kvecki and Hannon, and you had all the Fiat boys as well, Anton Lane and Basso, and we were in a massive battle in Monty, and it was my first time ever to Monty. I was second time in Monty, but the conditions were appalling. There was all tricky conditions, and there was I think there was 4 was starting the last morning. I was on the way down to Monaco. It was only 15-20 seconds, and Johanna was off in the first corner. Freddie got a puncture, and we wrecked the yoke in 6th gear in a straight line, hit a bridge on aquaplaned and slush, and the car was destroyed. A brand new Peugeot, absolutely destroyed. There wasn't a door, couldn't close the doors. It was a booing off in a straight line. It was just Kris didn't understand how bad the slush should be. We just pulled 6th gear and it just aquaplaned. And to explain to Peugeot UK, the whole world is on its knees. We're heading to Brazil. And we were given the BF Goodrich car to go to Brazil. And Mark Van Dalen said, "Don't you put a mark on this yoke." And to be fair, Kris didn't, and we went out and won. We won Brazil, and everyone talks about Azores now. And Jesus, Azores is class, it's brilliant. We went to Azores, and I had the clue. I had to fly to Lisbon. I said, "Where am I going from here?" And landed out and did the recce. Did most of the rally, and everyone said afterwards, "Do you see all the drops? Do you see all the?" I was going, "What drops?" We nothing, because all the banks and the volcanoes were high, you wouldn't see them. Not a clue, no. I had a clue. So I get home, I've 2 framed pictures of it, and we won there as well. And then the momentum, then, and as I said already, when Kris gets the momentum up, it's hard to knock him. And probably when I got to Ypres in 09, to win there was at that time was the greatest victory of my career, and it stands out as one of the biggest ones still.
Yeah, it was so specialised at that time. You almost had to be 10 times to build up the knowledge, I suppose, before you would ever be considered to be competitive there. And to go there and won was special.
Yeah, you don't go you don't go to Belgium and beat the Belgians.
No.
You don't go and beat Freddie likes your teammate. You just don't. No one does it. I think Kris was the second ever to do it in his first attempt. But after 215 Ks, there was 0.2 between ourselves and Freddie. And fair play, Mark Van Dalen at the time, Cronus. He just said, like, just steady yourselves with Peugeot UK versus Peugeot Belgium. And they didn't want to make a mistake. Obviously, Freddie got a puncher, but it was an intense battle, and it was just spectacular all weekend. And the race that we just stretched away from anyone else, and Nick and Boo, you'd all the Fiat, Yankapeki, Hannon, they were nowhere. And ourselves and Freddie just pushed each other to someone was going to make a mistake, and we came out the right side. And to be fair, it was superb.
And then San Remo as well. Outside the World Championship, you have Belgium, and San Remo is another one of those iconic rallies as well, isn't it?
Yeah, no, 9 it was the World Championship rally for years. We landed at San Remo in 2009, and the championship wasn't really we'd Scotland left. We'd done a story in Madeira. We were well beaten in Madeira. Madeira would finish fifth, which is a very localised rally, and all the locals were well able for us. But it was Stuart's win, Czech Republic as well. Obviously, Barmally finished second to Kopecky. So it was ourselves or Kopecky who win the championship in 09. The first night in San Remo, there's a couple of stages in the dark, and Kopecky went off, and we were fourth. We weren't doing anything special, and we were home back in the hotel Friday night, and then Kris, we were fourth, so and kind of the sums have been added. If you win the rally, you win the championship, and that's you go into wow, there was no other option. There was absolutely, and there was only 15 or 18 pretty seconds between the four of us, and there was Freddie Likes ahead of us, and we had two teammates ahead of us, so we said we'd get over him handy enough. And Hannon, there was a few on Basso, the local Italian. He said, "You're not going to beat him." And I said, we'll go. And because everyone was a grandstand finish in Scotland, and got up that morning, and after the second stage, we were leading the rally. And as I say, the rest was history. It was a special weekend, a special day, a very special day in the Meeke household.
Yeah.
It was an anniversary for their family, and it was the first. It's a title. It's IRC, ERC, whatever you want to call it. It's the European title, and the right man won the championship, and it was. And again, he defined logic. And when you win Belgium, it's special. When you go and beat the Italians in the back door again on your second attempt there, it's not possible. And you had a lot of local Italians as well there that weren't in the championship but could score points, because that day it didn't matter who showed up. It was open.
They
open plan.
Points, regardless.
You just didn't have to beat Basso. You had to beat every single one of the Italians. And no better man on his day and on a road around San Remo, and that was huge.
Yeah, and even at that time, the 207 was almost a wee bit outdated as well too. The M Sport and the Fiesta. The thing had started to move on. To do what you've done on a car that probably wasn't cutting edge as well too was spectacular.
Yeah, at the start of the year, Peugeot had the advantage, but the Skoda was coming quickly. Skoda were putting some development into the car, and they were getting closer and closer as the year went on. And by the end of the year, they had probably the development done. They were doing an awful lot of work behind the scenes, but we'd enough done. And obviously, went to Scotland, and to this day we still won the rally. We were thrown out because some part was underweight, and Guy Wilkes got the win, but. To me, I that's my victory, and he nobody will take it off. It was a technicality, and it wasn't even performance related. It was just a technicality that was stupid. But anyway, it didn't matter. We had the victory won that for that weekend. Anyway, we got value out of it. Anyway, it was Tuesday or Wednesday when it was over.
You still had
all right, yeah, exactly.
And then obviously led them to Pro Drive. This huge team, this big aplomb, they were bringing money back to the WRC. It really looked as if this was it. Kris Meeke and Paul Nagle were hitting the big time. And the first year, yes, there was teething problems, but it was starting to come good, wasn't it?
It was. We were testing a lot in 2010, and yes, we were promised the Sun Moon Stars, and we did. I think we were scheduled at 6 rallies. We did a lot of recce's as well, ourselves and Danny Sordo. And we had reasonable. We knew we'd some technical issues, and we had some problems with the reliability. But we were off in France and retired in a couple of rallies. But we should have been on the podium in Rally GB. We spun the last hairpin on the stage in Wales, and Henning Salva got the podium, and Petrus for a podium was a big disappointment. Danny got a podium right in I think Alsace, and it looked good, but there was cracks there, and there was
Right.
the writing was on the wall, and it was a 3-year deal that came to an abrupt end, and you don't have to say much. I think if I'm right in quoting what Kris Meeke said, and start in 2012 was that it's likely your girlfriend leaving to become a prostitute, and that sums it up. Like the car was rented out then, like
Yeah.
it was left go. Like
Yeah.
you don't need to throw your dirty laundry out in public.
No.
And what happened, and I felt it was over. I think we thought, geez, that's it. And Kris for sure, because he'd taken so many knocks back in the Citroen days and C2 days. I think he had his belly full. He said, I have enough of this. And we kind of said, right, that's it. That's it. We were a 3-year deal it over after 6 rallies, and we were left with nothing. And that was it for. And again, you like having breaks and rallying at times, and having breaking. I had 6 or 7 months out in 2012 doing nothing. So. Did it bother me? It probably didn't at the time.
And you got the call then from Craig to come and join him for Finland after the tragedy, with the death of Gareth Roberts. I suppose two things there. How did you pick yourself up after what happened with ProDrive to get back in the car? But how did you psych yourself up to go into that situation, to support Craig and get Craig through Finland?
I think there's no way of psyching yourself up. I just it rolled off my shoulders after the mini thing. I just kind of like got on with it, and I was still kind of floating around working, and it was just put away in the back. I did a few rallies at home and everything, and obviously the tragedy happened in Tagaflori, and there was lots of chat in the following couple of weeks that Craig would go to Finland, and I felt like if the call came, I would jump at it, and I wouldn't even question it. And obviously, Craig, I would have known Craig just through rallying circles. We'd have been around the same rallies together in ERC, IRC days, and ERC and bits and pieces. And when the call came, like we need some help here and go to Finland, and I just said yes without even thinking about it. I said whatever happens, we'll just go. I'll go to Finland, and I knew I had the experience, and I'm dealing with a young kid, and a fella that has gone through something that no one wants to go through, and no one will go through, and the trauma he has put through. And we're going to the biggest rally in the world, the most famous rally in the world, and I knew that the media would be on it, and the whole world would be looking down at him and seeing how he's going to perform. And to bring a young lad that's nearly broken to a rally, you don't learn, you don't train, you don't want to. You'll never be trained to do anything like that. You just have to be a kind of a figure. You don't have to be a co-driver. You just have to be a figure. Get in with the family, with Ray and Jackie, and with Tom Gann as well running the car. You just had to just go with the flow and do a job, but you have to do a job at a delicate situation. And we went into the test, and it was grand. And I remember coming into the shakedown. It was Rowan Mackey, which is the power stage at the moment. And I don't open the doors. Don't open any doors if the power finishes the stage, because it doesn't matter what you're going to say. They're going to be asking difficult questions, and kind of walked from there. And obviously we crashed out in Kakaristo here, and it was I feel it was the best thing ever happened to them. And accidents happen. It was a tragedy. It was a freak accident happened with Craig, and it happened in Kakaristo then again, that we both walked away from a wreck, and it kind of gelled us together. And I said, don't worry. And he probably thought, oh geez, he'll never go again, like it kind of another bad accident. But we went on, didn't won the last 3 rounds, and the character he showed and was incredible to get 3 podiums and go to Wales, go to Spain obviously, and finish 6th overall outright, and go to Wales as well, which is very hard for him, and from the situation he came from, the character he had. But he had that from the year before, for winning that last famous rally with JB, winning all those stages, and it showed the character he had to win the championship. And it's a part of my life that I don't really talk about. Is I just did a job, and forever, and he's forever grateful. I'm forever grateful to be involved in the team with him and involved that time. And it was not just me. It was a motorsport in Ireland helped. There was a lot of people who were behind us, and a lot of people did things for us, and a lot of people got me in the right place for it and everything. And it was a special time when he won that title, and he deserves all the credit and deserved every bit of recognition he got that time to win it, and I'm just glad to be part of it.
Yeah, and like we kind of think Craig, he kind of wears his heart in his sleeve and whatever, but there is an iron core to him or a steel core to him as well. Like to as you say, to go back out there, do what he done, like and the year before as well, and GB. Like there's a staleness in him, there's a determination in him as well, and that obviously showed that that he keeps bouncing back again as well.
He does. He always does. And I said, even to today, this day, he keeps bouncing back, and he's lost his seats and he's got it back, and he's lost it again. He's got it back, and back in those days as well. And remember, he's a young lad, like like at 21 and 22. I wasn't thinking about rallying, and I wasn't doing anything like that. And what he had to deal with and to put through his mind and get back into a rally car and show the determination that knowing after Finland you have to win the next 3 rallies to win the championship, and he was determined that he needed to win that championship for anything else for himself, and to show that he was able to get back into rally car, and I think he did it in the best ability, and he didn't probably get the recognition back then that he probably should have, and look back now, but it took a big part of his life and a big toll out of his life, and it'll always be with him.
And then moving on to 2013, so you did a few more rounds of the ERC with Craig in the Peugeot Academy, and then towards the end of the year, you had a phone call from Andreas Mikkelsen. To join him in Volkswagen for a couple of rounds. Again, what was that like, moving to what was the most competitive team really at the time?
It was very good. We were. It came half as a surprise. I was doing rallies all year with Craig. I was back in Ypres as well, and Kris was in Ypres in the R5 doing zero car, and he obviously got the Citroen spin in Finland with Chris Patterson, and they were in the recce in Germany, and obviously Andreas's co-driver was pulled from the rally because he had damaged vertebrae or whatever after Finland, and Kris just sent me a message saying that Mikkelsen might be looking for a co-driver for Australia, and it just took off from there. And Richard Brown's, he's a neighbour over the road from me. He was Andreas's engineer. And it was a Thursday evening after I think it was after Shakedown that Andreas was out of the rally from not doing Germany, and by Sunday the wheels were in motion with Sven Smits and Jaska Vito, and the whole thing was just spiraling out of control. And I had a lot of my own problems. Obviously, to then turn on Craig, like I have to go here and I'm have to be called into the factory car, and that was very hard to do. And because what we'd gone through, and I was helping him along, and I was leaving him out on his own. But I knew it was the right decision. He didn't have any problem with it, because he knew it was. I was in the opportunity to go into the biggest team in the world at the time and to be teammates with Sebastian Ogier and Latvala. But to get the seat, though, that was me. I felt that was again, we go back to the ladder. That was a big turning point to be picked to sit with Andreas Mikkelsen of all the English speaking co-drivers out there. And to get into a factory car and to help the team score manufacturer point, to help Volkswagen win the World Championship, was something very special for me. And we went to Australia, and obviously I went there racing against Kris, which he was in the Citroen, I was in the Volkswagen, and I went and did France as well with Andres, and obviously Seb won the World Championship, and I was part of that whole winning circles. And it's strange to see that 4 or 5 years earlier, the man couldn't speak a word of English, and there was world champion speaking perfect English. And it was brilliant to be involved in that team and to see how a full factory team works. It was incredible to be witnessed, and it was another level gone so far on from what I thought I was at, even in IRC days, and even with Peugeots and everything, and no disrespect to that time, and Kris would even say it as well. We're gone to another level again, and it was just huge. But then obviously Andreas was going to Spain, and Kris was going to Spain as well, doing gravel notes, and it just happened that Kris said to me, "Will you do gravel notes for Khalid Al-Qasimi and Scott Martin?" I said, "I'm not really pushed. I'm not sure what Andreas is going. No, you need to come to Spain with me." So I did the recce and did the gravel notes, and that's where the whole thing kicked off. Then that Thursday, I knew nothing. I knew very little. Kris just said, "I'm not sure what you're at," and with Andreas and all this, but he says there's a deal there next year for the World Championship, driving a Citroen in the 2014 World Championship, and I want you in the car, and we need to make this work. This is what we've all worked for: different angles, different shapes, whatever way we've been around the long way, the short way, and that was it. That was where you spend all your life trying to get to the top, and all of a sudden,
it's there.
you're going to be in Monte Carlo in 2014 driving for the Citroen World Rally team, and it took me a couple of weeks at home going, is this going to happen? Like, you're going to the World Championship, and you have a car that's capable of winning, you have a car capable of podiums, and this is what dreams are made of.
And you got a podium on Monty. Like, was this just icing on the cake at the time? Then was it becoming unbelievable nearly?
It was, yeah. I couldn't believe we got a podium Monty. It was like we started off, and I remember the rally was so treacherous and tricky, and we had Ogier and Elfyn Evans and I might say Stefan Sarazan and O'Brien Brophy. He was there as well, and we got into a podium comfortably early enough, and it was the start of Hyundai year as well, and the bid was off in the first stage, and we just managed the whole thing, and to get a podium on your first WRC rally with a factory team, you're going, wow, this is where do you go? Where's the next step? Where you want to go more, and it was incredible just to be up there in the palace, up with meeting the prince and everything, and you look back now and you go, did that really happen? Like,
yeah, and you had a good year that year, and in the DS3 that was becoming a little bit outdated, starting to get a little bit old, especially compared to the Polos. He's seventh at the end of the year. Like, what was the feeling then getting into 2015?
With good results all year, with podium in Argentina, podium in Finland, podium in Assas, podium in Australia as well. So we had solid results, and I think the contract was renewed for 2015. But we knew the Polo, the Volkswagens were very, very strong, and they had the legs in us in a lot of rallies. But our car handled so well, but the power and the development, you couldn't match them. And there were a lot of change of hands, and in Citroen, and a lot of good people were leaving just for their own reason, or for different jobs. But the Citroen was lacking a bit, yeah. But it still was a very competitive car, and we started 15 with Loeb as a teammate. And we both retired in Sweden, and we had a very bad start to 2015. We were stuck in snowbanks in Sweden, and we're off the road in Mexico, and then it came to Argentina, and probably the backs were against the wall. Like, we're under a bit of pressure, and a lot of questions have been asked about Kris Meeke and Paul Nagle, and what would you? They're not doing well. They're struggling here. The Polos are winning, and never knock a man when he's down. And we started in Argentina, and it was, am I right in saying, 2 stages done twice on the Friday, there were 30 Ks each. Polos were giving trouble. We led it from the start. And it was a rally weekend that was pretty straightforward. We've often battled to get a podium, battled to get a 4th place. And we got our noses out in front, and Mats was second to us, their teammate at the time. And the car stalled once, I think, in one of the rallies. But I never felt at ease out in the stages, but back in the service park in the background, and on Saturday night when we did 30-second lead Saturday night, and you're on the verge of winning your first WRC rally, you knew the weight of the country was behind you, but you're glad it was a different time zone, because at least they wouldn't be bothering you. And you had people texting me going, "Geez, I'm going to mass. I'm going to mass for you tomorrow." Thank God I'm not at home. Or this rally's not an hour.
Yeah.
So. And I knew the following day we were going to El Condor, which is the most famous 2 stages. I mean, Kleber and El Condor. I was El Condor done twice, and it's one of the most famous stages in Argentina. It's way out in the middle of nowhere. It's like the moon, as I call it. And we had podiums there beforehand, but I'd never seen so many journalists on edge, because no one had won a rally in UK or never in Ireland, and you had Colin or Richard, and I see David Evans and Colin Clark and Bex and all these people that have been around for the last big win on the Sunday morning. Going, this is not great. You're looking at all these, and they were on eggshells, and I go, I need to get out in the road section. It was about 80 Ks out to El Condor, and I got into gas. Chris, great to get out here, because yeah, great. And we did the first run, and Colin a big regroup, and then Elfyn Evans got into the podium with Dan for his first podium, and Chris Patterson were with Khaled, and Marshall Clark was sitting with Al-Qasimi, I think, Al-Kamim, one of them, Al-Tuari, I think, and he was winning another category. So I was in great company and great people around me when I was leading the rally. But then all of a sudden, it just took off in the last stage with Mickelson going off and Nagle going off, and I was going, I can feel the phone beeping in my pocket. I know they're going off. I know they're going off. I could see it, and everyone was telling us back in the start line, everything was going, I have poor parents at home, poor every Irishman watching the rally, wondering, my God, is Kris Meeke going to get through this stage? But you just know sometimes that you know you're going to win this one and to get through in the last stage and comfortably in a Citroen 1-2. And one of the finest moments you'll ever remember as a driver co-driving the Aldrin, your first one, and it was very special. And you realise all the hard work of probably 20 years of starting my first day out was to win in Argentina.
Yeah, and to have that, that feeling, like, does it hit you immediately? Shit, I've done this, or is it sort of like, do you get caught up in the wave and it's maybe only a day or two later that it finally hits?
No, for me, I have to see. I obviously won the rally at the stop car, but you still have to get through the last control service over the ramp into Parc Ferme. Takes all that. It took a big night out and a long flight home. And by about Tuesday, Wednesday, you're a world championship winner, and you just feel on top of the world for a few days, and you knuckle down and get back to. Kris is very focused, and you go back rallying again, go back straight away, and we sunk in some huge results. Then the rest of that year, we're second in GB and third again in Alsace, and there was some huge results at the end of the year to really give us the stepping stone to get into the new generation cars. But that second place in GB was every bit as good as winning in Argentina at the time to get a contract. And we were racing Volkswagen on their back door. We knew how good. We knew we were out our back door, but we knew how good the Volkswagen was in slippy, tricky conditions, and we were within, I think, finished 16 seconds behind Ogier after 3 days of rallying. And for that result was as big as some of the results we'd have had to get us the big contract for the next 3 years.
And Paul, you mentioned there prior to Argentina, obviously, the pressure was on, and you mentioned not only the pressure on from the employer, but also, from you're conscious, your fans and countrymen are watching what you're doing. Like, I suppose as fans, we forget sometimes that, this is a career, it's a professional job you guys are doing. It's not just your, doing your hobby there, but you're actually, being paid to do this as well. How do you handle the pressure? How do you stop it getting into your head, or can you?
You can. You just delete social media, get over that. After a while, they got a lot worse in 2016-17, really. But the pressure, you kind of deal with it. Just gets normal. The pressure, the expectations, the team, what the team expects, that gets very normal. And I've seen that now since I've retired. That I've dealt with pressure as speaking to you here this minute. It just comes normal. It's just normal there. You get up to go to a rally, the pressure is there, but it doesn't feel like pressure. It's when you step away and look back to you, a lot of the pressure there. But we were in the pressure. But Kris Meeke, he's a special character, and when he was under pressure, when he was really, really under pressure, he performed the best. And like we all know, he made mistakes. We all made mistakes. But when the chips were down and when the pressure was on, he could grind it out. When we needed results, when Citroen needed him to get big results, he got them. We got the victories, got the podiums, we got that second place in GB. It comes part and parcel. You either have it or you don't. I obviously calling pace notes now, or even back then, or calling pace notes at this day and age, is your right to call pace notes. That's normal. It's dealing with the pressure, dealing when you step out of the car, dealing with the media, dealing with social media, dealing with the manufacturers, the organisers. That's what you either have it or you don't.
Yeah.
And you can't teach a fellow how to deal with pressure. You can't deal with pressure with the expectations when you go to the car. You can teach a fellow to call pace notes and timing and all that, and you either have that or you don't. And some people are better at it than others.
And then moving on to 2016, 2 more wins, Portugal and Finland, and particularly Finland. Like, you what do you call it? To beat the Finns on their home ground, there's so very few non-Scandinavians have done it. You say Argentina was memorable, but would Finland rank above that? Is it the equivalent of, Monte Carlo for the F1 guys winning Monaco?
It is, yeah. Oh, no question whatsoever. Like, 16 was a very mixed year. We'd obviously got the 3-year deal with Citroen, and we only did 6 straight rallies. And the start of the year, we weren't supposed to do Finland. We were going to do Poland. Then there was talk Poland would do the championship the following year. So we said we'd opt back into Finland, and we were to pick and choose what we wanted and do all the recce's. And with Monty, what happened? Oh, we were leading Monty. We were racing out Monty until we broke the gearbox. And that was some battle, and we would have won Monty that year, and no question whatsoever. We were on the way down to Sistron, and we had the right tyres, and Seb hadn't. and the gearbox broke through a crossroads and put us out of the rally. The form was up, and when the confidence was up, and we landed at Portugal obviously first, and led it again from start to finish. We had a bit of luck there. We didn't have much luck there, but a couple of stages were cancelled, and we had a good road position. And going to Finland, we had a massive test, and the car felt incredible. And we knew that if we got it right, we could have a right go here. And it was all that weekend. It was nothing special. We did prepare no different. We did the whole thing, the recce, did the videos and everything. And Friday morning we started mock Kerry, and it was the first year of the bollards. And it was a lot of hassle over that. Why are they all put in destroying the car to the road? And I think Kris has said it many times. The first corner was a 3 left, which would be third gear for us, but he took it in fourth, and it was the start of the whole rally. And we're fastest there, and we led Friday night by, I'm not saying, 17 seconds, and we were going back in the road into Vascular after a great loop, and we're fastest the most day. But Jari was on our tail, and I knew by the tone and the atmosphere in the car and everything that tomorrow will be special, and it'll be one way or the other. And I knew that Kris said 17 seconds is a lot in Finland, and the following morning it was an Unemployed in reverse, and everyone knew that 33 Ks in reverse was where the rally was going to be won and lost. It was pile on pile of Koski after, which were Jari's 3 home stages. And if anyone knows, in Uvasco, you have to walk over the railway and down into the service park to get to Finland. And we did the videos, and I could hardly stay up walking with Kris across the railway and down into the stage. And I'm going, geez, if I can hardly stay to me or walking, how am I going to stay up calling the pace notes with them? But it was a long, long way out to Uvasco, and we'd always chat briefly in the morning, bits and pieces, and there'd be quite enough going up the road, but there was very little communication. And I knew there was 33 Ks coming here that will be as good as we'll ever get. And look, the rest is history. We went through the stage and we were 14 seconds quicker than anyone. And I remember Colin Clark at the finish line just bouncing around the place. And it was just, I've said it before, it's Kris Meeke at his finest, and his finest hour, his finest stage, its finest result. Everything he ever did that weekend, it'll be his legacy and my legacy probably as well. But he didn't even just do, people do come on and pile. We went up to the other 2 pile of Koski, and he just keep sticking the knife into Jari. Took 5 more, 7 more, and we'd a 40-second lead. And 40-second lead 40-odd second lead coming Saturday evening in Finland is huge. Like, and Sunday, luckily, was a walk in the park really, and we just had to keep our nose clean. And it is the Holy Grail rally. It's the biggest rally in the world. It's the fastest rally in the world. We hold the record as 126 point something kilometers an hour, and it still holds to this day. And it's hard to believe with all the new technology, all the supercars, the Group era, we call them, the last couple of years, the hybrid cars now, no one can get near it. And as Callie Robin Pear said to me, he was 14, he jumped school, he left school, he got his dad to leave school to watch Kris Meeke win in Finland, and it's hard to believe he's world champion now, and makes me feel a lot older.
Yes.
But it was a weekend. I was lucky enough my wife was there, and there was a lot of Ireland, and for me to have Craig and Scotty on the podium as well, you have to say, for an Irish motorsport person in Ireland, and it was the finest hour for Irish motorsport to have myself, Kris and Craig up there. Like, it'll never happen again. No. I can tell you that now. It doesn't matter what you say, it'll never happen again, and it'll go down in memory as my finest hour, really.
And on Empoya, like, Kris's notes will be quite technical, so you probably had a mountain of work to do on that stage.
Yeah, I did, but I remember I just stay with him. And like, you can't go too far ahead calling the pace on the pike because everything looks the same. And stay ahead of him and be careful of all these bollards that are over here on these cones, don't cuts. But it just worked. Sometimes it just works, and we went 10 seconds quicker the second time. It just felt normal for him, and again he gets into that zone, and you just know sometimes there's no coming back from this, and he just went on from there, and it was incredible, and possibly should have won Corsica as well a couple of months later as well, but that didn't help. But that didn't happen. But it was. It'll always stand in the history books, really, and a great moment.
And again, no, probably a silly question, but no, do you savor at that time, or is it now looking back that you think, I am part of that story?
Well, I didn't say this too often, but when we won Finland 16, I felt I was doing as good as the job as I could, and if I felt I was on top of my game, and it felt normal, it felt comfortable, it felt everything, and I didn't think much in it. I just knew felt great, and I would say that now, and I'd never talk that way, but I'd roll the clock on 12 months later, and I get out of the car in Finland in the 17 car, and I sat in the ground, and I said, Kris, I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
And it takes 12 months of thinking you're one of the best in the world, and 12 months later, and I don't want to go anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. I can't do it. So you look back at all these things, but it'll take another couple of months. And Finland, I'll always remember, but see, like Portugal and Argentina and Spain, all these ones that I've won, they look back in the videos and look at all that. But at the time, you can't stop. If you stop,
you're losing, behind. You're behind.
Yeah, you're stopping behind. You look at the results, great, well done. And like we won Finland, and 3 days later we were testing in Spain. I remember getting home Monday from Spain, and I was going home Monday from Finland, and I was leaving again Tuesday to go to the Spain test. I remember up in our Portugal test up in Fat in the C3. So I was home I didn't even see anyone. I just came home, changed the bags, and gone again. And that was the time back then where we were doing 12. We did 12 tests in the C3, and we did 3 days of every one of them. That was 36 days testing in 2016 in the C3. So we never saw home. We never saw nothing. And the rallies were bonus just to get out for a week's rally.
And then, like, the new car come along, like, and you had spent the year testing Citroen. This was going to be the car. Like, did you know, like, immediately in Monte Carlo that things weren't right, or was it something that you felt yes we were going to be able to drive around and get it sorted?
We knew we had problems. After there was a lot of in the end of 16 and everything. We were open the launch in Abu Dhabi, and we were there with the Prince and the owner of Manchester City football team and all these high rollers and everything. And we look at the car. It looked beautiful. It looked beautiful, Monty. But we knew behind the scenes there was a lot going on that needed to be sorted. And I think they summed up in shakedown. Craig was in the DS3, the DS3, and he was quicker than us in shakedown. And we were in this new fancy C3, and obviously Hayden Patton crashed in the first stage, and there was a fatality. And I think we would have been out of the rally anyway before we got a red flag. The car was giving trouble, so it just went Sweden. It was undrivable, and we went from being favourites. I think we were 2-1 to win the World Championship. And geez, I said I hope many fellas haven't put money in us anyway, but. Citroen never built a bad car, and I suppose their own legacy. They've had years of success. They're the best driver in the World Championship on all time, and we probably were on the back of that as well, thinking, we can't be wrong. The car must be right, and it didn't turn out that way. And look, we won Mexico, and I know you're going to bring it up anyway, but so I might as well talk about it.
Yeah.
We won Mexico. We were fastest from the start. The engine was very strong in the Citroen, and we knew up in the altitude in Mexico that we'd have a strong car, and we were out on our own the whole weekend on our own leading it, and obviously we ended up inside the car park briefly. But go on, shout away. You're bound to ask something about this.
But no, like Kris always credits you with being the calmness in the car at that stage. You spotted that there was a way out. Like, do you just, is there a calm comes over you at that point? No, you don't panic. You go, right, we're in a situation. How do we deal with it? What do we do? Is that like almost like a natural reaction for you rather than, oh shit, what's going to happen here? Do you just, right, get it sorted, get out of here?
Subconsciously, you'll just I need to find a way out. And we went in through the hedge, and we seemed to be okay. But just to get us out, and I saw the gap in the ditch where we came in. So he went straight for there and pointed over. But when I got through the finish line, he said to me, "Do we win it?" I said, "I don't think so," because I didn't know how long we were in the car park. We did a 30-odd second lead, and we dropped 17 inside her, and with a front right puncher. But you look back at it now, and it's funny and it's great and everything. But at the time, we were lucky. Like if that Volkswagen Passat put it into reverse another 1 foot, the back rear wheel was off it. It'll go down in folklore history, and go down in history. It was one of the greatest scares and rally victories and everything, and but it gave the team a great boost, like after a bad start with all the drivers, and we went to Corsica a month later, and we were flying. We were leading it we were way out in front again because the engine was so strong. The car was brilliant in tarmac, and the engine blew past the flying finish on Saturday afternoon, and that was a big blow because you had a momentum. Like if you'd won Mexico and you won Argentina, won Corsica going, and win Corsica be special, it would have been one I'd like to have won. And to bring that forward into Argentina with 2 wins, you'd be up in the championship on the hunt. And You get that momentum, you get that
and the team and everybody starts
everything, and then Argentina happened, and it was the biggest accident of my life. Yeah, I've had a lot of them. It was the biggest.
Yeah.
We went off on Friday. Ourselves and Craig in the same corner broke suspensions. We rolled. He didn't roll. He broke everything in the car. And because we were running different suspensions, and all the suspensions we ran in house at the moment, and all the other teams have gone external to Riger Extract. And look, I don't need to get into all these details, but we crashed out, and then Craig's car didn't restart the following day. Pulled out, and we went off. We went out, and we were running around one of the stages at the top of the mountains, and the car obviously it's probably not the rear. The car was a bit temperamental at times. And we left the road at 183 kilometers an hour, and we rolled between 11 and 14 or 15 times, and that was it. That was the beginning of the end.
And that, as you said, then Finland come round, and you're sitting outside that car going, "I don't want to do this anymore."
Oh, but it wasn't even that, Kevin. We went to Portugal next. We crashed in Portugal leading. Went to Sardinia, crashed. We were leading because we hit the bridge. We were dropped for Poland, and we ended up in Finland, and we were shadows of people we were 12 months later. Shadows, and then Germany went off in the super special, and that was another just a disaster. And then my wife went into labour that weekend, had a child, so I missed the birth of my child as well, which was very hard for me. But Kris dealt with it very well and managed me as best he could, and kept me on the straight and narrow, and kept me in the sport, and minded me for the whole weekend, and he deserves a lot of credit for that. But again, then the whole world is against you. The whole social media is against you. The whole teams, and then you have to dig deep, and it's a dark place. It can be a dark place for your family, a dark place for myself and Kris. At the end of the day, we were still normal people who have a mortgage, kids, family, and you had an online community of people that were very harsh. And you look back now, you laugh at it, but at the time I wouldn't be a big social media person in general. We had to do it for the teams anyway, but I can see how people get themselves into difficulties. I saw my own wife struggling at times, upset, see what they're saying, whether this and everything, and you go to a function months later, and as with Motorsport Ireland, somebody look down and goes, geez, what, that's the fella who said something about us in there. And you have to ride the whole storm, and it's all part of the game.
Yes.
And when you're dealing with Kris, who's a high profile driver, he was high profile. He was making the front headlines and all this, and you had to deal with all that pressure. But again, he just soaks it all up, and we 3 or 4 wrecks in a row, and a bad result in Finland. He got out and win Spain, and that's the character you needed. And we knew in Spain when we were on the gravel, that if we were anywhere close getting on tarmac on Saturday and Sunday, that we had a chance. And when you get that Yokonta go-kart track, he was unstoppable, and it felt great, to go back and win.
Yeah, it's nice to
Spain after all the hardship we'd put in 4 or 5 months. Like a lot of it called by ourselves, a lot called by the team. Bits and pieces and bad luck and everything, and but to win Spain then was, and we struggled in GP, and we a lot of hassle in Australia as well. But Spain summed it all up to that what we could do when we had the right surroundings.
Yeah, and like you said there too, you picked up on something there. Like when your wife was starting to get, that must be difficult. You can accept it because you're in there, you're doing this job, and like if there's criticism, you might not like it, but you have to deal with it. When it starts rippling out then to your wife and to your family, that's difficult, isn't it?
There is, but there's plenty of idiots in the world.
Yeah.
And they're well people. We call them keyboard warriors. Like, I'd be wondering sometimes, even when I retired here recently, like, did they have anything better to do? Did they not have a wife or a girlfriend they can go play with for a while, or go drinking or something? Jesus, the comments that people put up, like, have they any life whatsoever? But you just go, whatever back then. But look, it's all part and parcel of the job, and it's getting bigger and bigger. Back then it was big; it's got bigger now, and you have to be the bigger man. But
There's no point in getting into the ins and outs of what happened at Citroen. It didn't end well, but you have still some great memories, Paul, from your time at Citroen. Nobody's ever going to take the 5-1s off you. Oi and Poya, like that special weekend in Finland.
Oh, brilliant part of my life and brilliant part of my career. And not even the Citroen days, but I was a PSA group going back 2008, 9, 10. Craig in 12 and 13. So it was majority of my professional career with Citroen, and you can't knock them. There's some fantastic people there. Like I was teammates with Sebastian Loeb and Daniel Lane, and there's Daniel Gratloop and Coco and all the boys that were so influential in the team, and the amount of Mary Peer and all the people that were so involved back in the great Citroen days. They were still there, and like, and Citroen didn't fall off a cliff overnight, but it did end badly. Like, and to be fair, in 2018 we didn't start badly. We'd a fourth place in Monte, I think fourth in Monte, and Turbo went in Sweden, a few issues, but we had the huge accident in Portugal, and I think the pressure was on, but there was pressure on going along with the team. I was struggling myself within the team. I was struggling as a co-driver. I was struggling mentally, physically, everywhere with the team because things were going so badly, and it came to an abrupt end in Portugal. And to be fair, we were leading on Friday. We got a blow, or what you call them, a delamination, and it put us back to seventh. Obviously, it was a big accident. It looked horrific on the pictures afterwards, but we were both taken away to hospital, airlifted, a bit of concussion and everything. But I got home and it was a bit of weight off my shoulders. You know, I got a call Tuesday, Wednesday that you're going to be either left or sacked or whatever wording that was put. But we all saw the press release, and there's no point going on about it. We saw the press release. Was it well written? Probably not. But look, that's what happened, and the powers that be did that. And to be fair, I remember I just switched off the phone. I knew before the whole world knew about 20 minutes beforehand. So I just texted my dad and a few of my friends and said, right, I'm off the air here for 24 hours and I'm going to where I am. They knew where I'd be. And to be fair, it was part of me going, yeah, that's it. I've had enough of this crack, and I was sick of it. I was sick of the whole thing. I think Kris was sick of it as well, and just to walk away. But we got our own justice back in years to come, and the Citroen days were over, but the good will outweigh the bad. And I'll always look back in the good days, and the bad days were made sour, but the sorrow was softened years later.
You know, when you look back now, you don't remember the bad. You remember the good far more. You know that they're going to be the days you'll remember in the years to come.
Yeah, and you know, everything happens for a reason. You know, in the rest of 18, I was at home and great times at home with the family, and Kris and Craig and Scotty Martin and loads of lads were over. I was 40 that year, and it was great to be socialising, no pressure on, having great crack, big parties, and enjoyed. And all of a sudden, my dad got sick, and I wouldn't have been able to spend the time with him for the last couple of months of his life if I was away rallying in Australia, wherever they were, and like he only sick for 4 or 5 weeks, and I was around for. I was building a Mark II Escort road car by Phil Mills, so I was able to go over to him and bring him over and do all these things. There was no rallies on, and Phil would always say to me, "Don't worry about it. Rallying comes and goes." And I was able to spend those quality time that I didn't know would mean so much to me after. And you know, everything happened for a reason, and I got those 3 or 4 months of being sacked by Citroen, but it gave me 3 or 4 months with my family at home and going through a difficult time as well.
That's for sure. Yeah, no, that's them's the things that you can cherish, you know, without a doubt, you know. And then Craig, then he had obviously had, you know, lost his love affair with rallying as well. But the lure of getting back home and doing I think it was just going to be a one-off doing Galway. But you know, to come back then and get that, you know, Irish hug from the Irish rally community from Galway. Did that you know, bring back the spark to you immediately whenever you rolled up in Galway? That it was a Friday night then that was a ceremonial start.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, for sure it did. It was, I suppose, I didn't think I'd go. Over Christmas I was going, you know, it's all over, like, and the World Championship rallying. I might pack it all up after that, because I said I was just pure sick of it, and there was no opportunity. The whole musical chairs that happened in the World Championship, and there were seats floating around. Obviously, Scotty had left to go with Elfin, and someone had gone in with Gus and Takamoto. There were all loads of the co-drivers going around, and I couldn't. I remember Tanak texting me, and would I go with Takamoto or get somebody I'd be interested with, one Taka or one of the boys. And I knew it's the current situation at home, there was no way. So I said, no, I'm done. I'm packing up. And Craig obviously didn't fell between the stools as well. And Scotty had to move on because Craig had nothing. And Craig just said, well, should we go to Galway? And I goes, no, what? Why not? Why not, and go and see can we enjoy ourselves? And so the whole year was just a blast, and we just loved every single bit of it. Going to Galway, we were in West Cork, we were in rallies in Italy. Winning West Cork in a very special part of the world for me. It was my first major rally win, not an international, but a rally win with Donnelly. And to go down there and win the Circuit of Ireland, win in San Remo, again 10 years later after winning it. And then obviously I had to go to Clarny and try and win Clarny. To be fair, I'd done one rally in Ireland from 08 to 2019, and that's why I always say to any of the boys out in the World Championship now, as this rallying will be there when you go home. No disrespect to Irish rallying, but if you're going to stay in the World Championship, like the James of Fuzzy and Aaron and John Rowan, all the boys, stay out now. You're in the World Championship, you're learning the experience, stay there. And I spent 11 years, and I missed it. Every year we can hear Killarney, all the boys going to the rally, and I'm sitting at home. I wish I was testing, I'd be away, or I'd help out in the rally or do a course car or block a gap or something like that.
Yes.
But I got my chance then in 19, and it was the 40th anniversary, and to have a go at the rally, and I knew starting the rally, I said, right, I have the right driver, I have the car, it's the 40th anniversary, the last stage finishes on my dad's back door, we have to win this. And the pressure I put on Craig was worse than any pressure I put on any driver, and the pressure I put on myself as well. Like, I was under more pressure Sunday morning than I was on Sunday of Argentina or Sunday in Finland, because I had to win. And there was no question, I had to win it, and to win and go on and win the time, and we went on to win Ypres in the polo.
Yeah.
And then the whole floodgates opened again with Hyundai, which I thought never would happen. In my career,
had you basically closed off that, that's never going to happen again?
I boxed that up. I said, no, I'm done. I have my 5 wins. I have my 13, 14 podiums at the time. So no, I'm done. That's it. No, and I go and gyro rallying. I was loving in the polo and the Ypres. It was just class, and in the Skoda and San Remo, winning different rallies. And no pressure. No. Like, people don't realize when you represent a manufacturer, you're representing the brand, you're representing the WRC and the pressure and all what follows that. And then you're just rocking up to Ypres, which is a brilliant rally in the polo, and just go win the rally. Yeah. And obviously went on, win Ulster, win the Town Championship, and got the rallies back in with Hyundai, and back in Finland and Finland and GB, I think that year was it, or whatever rallies we were doing. And to be back in the Hyundai fold for the year with COVID. But you're back in, when you're back in this, that's the worst thing, when you get back into the bubble. It's a drug. Like, you're away again. You need to go again. And obviously, for like COVID, everyone lost something in COVID. Lost families, lost life, lost everything. But when you're rallying, you lose 2 years of your age, and when I getting older and everything, and I was fortunate enough to get to Estonia and finish second to Tanak with the Hyundai, and that was a massive victory. That was a massive podium. I mean, like, to be racing him, and it showed Craig again coming back from nowhere, coming out from nowhere, had nothing, and it helped him with COVID, because no one was racing. We did Sweden. It was not until September, and everyone was tools down. Everyone could do nothing. We were doing, obviously, ERC. We were in Rally Rome. We were getting a few rides here and there. We could, but like, it was very difficult out of the country, and a lot of support from Motorsport and get us passes and get us visas and waivers and everything. It was just a nightmare with all the isolation. But we got to do some of the ERC rides, so we were pretty match fit. And to go on for the second in Estonia would be the same thing as myself and Chris finishing second in Wales back in 15, looking for a big contract. The Craig there put it there, and yes, that's it. We have a contract for 2021.
Yeah, and like 2021, it couldn't have been better. You said part-time drive. They always say, seat time's key, but you just weren't getting the same seat time as Nagle or Tanak or any of the other guys. And every rally you just seem to just slot straight back in again and go. Like, it says an awful lot for the caliber of the two guys as well, that were able to do that.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. It just Craig just to rock up and pressure free, go and get the results and see what happens. And the highs, and he was just flew in the Hyundai and loved it. And I suppose, like, we were doing the ERC as well, and we were driving an MRF, so we had to go a lot harder on the ERC days, and it kept us in half match fit. But just I knew in Estonia and Finland, Craig was always going to be good, and we had the knowledge of Eco winning as well, and when the confidence up. But when we were leading Finland in Friday of 21, to be racing everyone, they were all there, and to be reading Friday night after the dark stage was incredible. I know Elton went on to win it, but it was a special drive by Craig that day. Friday was up there with one of his finest days. And obviously we won the Sony again for the second. And Ypres was a ding dong battle all day with Nagle, but then the whole high on the 4 thing was on the back burner as well. So
Right.
look, one of Adamo did the right thing. Like the two of us were racing neck and neck, and someone there was a team decision made, and look, we were still racing. He had the edge on us, but we were going to fight him all the way, and then the decision made to finish.
As you said before, you're representing the mark. It's not, it's not you and Terry Nagle that's up in the rally. It's, there's a bigger picture.
There's a huge bigger picture, and that's what the whole WRC live now, and all the stages live and everything. A lot of people don't see what goes on behind the scenes and all the testing and all the prep work and what the teams put into it and what the manufacturer wants and demands and everything. So, look, you're happy enough if you finish second in the Ville and Ypres, it's still a good result, and it gave us this big stepping stone. Then, well, the whole thing was done with M Sport well and before Ypres, but you still need to pump in the results, and we obviously going to M Sport was a big thing to get the big deal to do the full season. That's what Craig wanted to do, and for me, I wanted to have another go, and I've gone from one generation to another, and it'd be nice to sample the hybrid generation, and that's what kept me going. And I knew myself. Paul, you're getting a bit long in the tooth here for this, but you'll have another go. You might have 2 years. You'll try 2 years out of it if you can, but that would be nice. But and the new generation came in.
Yeah, and kind of. What's your take on the hybrids? What is it chalk and cheese? Is there much of a comparison? And then obviously there's issues there around, slightly cramped cabin, the overheating issues, on the hot rallies as well. So what was it like getting into the new cars?
The last generation, as we call them, the 17 cars, the last generation cars were the ultimate Group E cars for us in our generation, our lifetime. The new cars are very good. Obviously, we have to follow the protocol and help the manufacturers. They're still as quick, but they're in some rides they're quicker. You don't have the aero, which is a big disadvantage now. And the safety inside the cars are incredible now. The new safety cockpit and the seating positions. Yes, we're cramped. Yes, we're the heat is huge. With the heat comes in front of my legs and comes around the exhaust, comes around my side as well. So it's a lot hotter, really, really hot in hot rallies, but. And what the FIA have done to make us safer in those cars, what compared to the last cars is night and day. They have put in some resources. It's not easy to get into, not easy to get out of them. Our seats are so far off the ground, so far from the roof. You can't sit on the floor anymore. The seats bend if you have a side impact to go bend into each other. Myself and Craig, there's no really center console. We're right beside each other, but it has disadvantages in. Like I'm 6'1", and the cramping and seat position and in the heat in Sardinia and everything, and it was pretty intense in Portugal and everything to keep the concentration. But they're a new generation. They're a work of art. They're a work of art, the new cars, and I think they've proved that they are still a spectacle and good to watch. And for us, obviously started off very well in Monty. We had a very solid weekend. As I say, Craig's a very clever driver. He works the conditions, works situation, and to finish third and Monty would be my best podium outside the wins. Obviously, our wins, but to have 2 Frenchmen on the podium and
what's that like? From a rally nerd's point of view, like you're standing on the podium with probably the 2 greatest generations. Well, definitely of a generation, if not ever. Like, is that not just like a bit surreal?
This year was, because I was probably going like, there won't be many more of these, Paul. You need to take all these. You need to take all these now and enjoy them. And would you believe I took off my Red Bull hat when I got the 2 Sebs to sign it and Craig to sign it. I have inside my little museum out there now, and look at it and goes, that was a class podium, because you look back in the years to come and tell your grandchildren, there's 2 Irish boys there sitting on the podium there in Monaco there, and see the 2 boys left and right of them, they're or the 2 boys down there, they've 17, whatever, how many world titles they have and how many rally wins, and they're the 2 greatest drivers of all time. Yeah. And it was, and we got the bus tour back down around to the press conference, everything, and the whole weekend, and the 2 Sebs are so good, like they're our big superstars in the world, and I have to mention, Seb would bring us a spin in the helicopter for Guns Park, Seb Loeb, and I was struggling to get home from Australia in 19 when the fires were out there, because my wife was expecting the second baby, and to be fair, Seb Ogier gave me a flight in his private plane from Coffs Harbour down to Sydney, because I was struggling to get a flight, get it home, just in case she went early, and nobody would offer you all those things. Like, they're actually still, there might be the big global stars, and maybe they do come across a bit ego and characters at times, but they really, really are genuine people, and they're very good to call them as friends, and to be on the podium beside them in Monty. It was definitely class.
Yeah.
We were a touch of class that weekend.
I like, as you sit there, like, not only, the greatest two drivers probably of a lifetime, but friends, that's a nice touch, isn't it?
Yeah, they would. Well, especially Seb Ogier. He started out the same time as us, and Loeb was a hero before we ever got there. But Seb Ogier was always involved, and like there were. He's competitive himself. Tanak, all these boys, Nagle, they're all competitive. They all have when they put on the race suits, they're competitive. But when they're outside and away from the whole media and PR, they're genuine good lads.
Yeah. And like, we'll start wrapping things up a wee bit now. Like, whenever you and Kris was out in the world's start, like, was probably the lone Irish voices, the two of you. It's amazing the way this whole thing is developed. Motorsport Ireland, the academy is one thing, but just the natural flow of talent. Before you, there was the Terry Harmons, the Fred Gallaghers, Ronan Morgans, or whatever. But there had been a gap for a few years. It's lovely to see that it's continuing on now.
It is. Like, when I came into World Championship, I was on my own there, and obviously Chris Patterson was there as well, and we plugged along together. But it's great to see now Aaron there, James Fulton, and John Rowan now going in with Josh McAleer next year. And there'll be another Irish co-driver as well in the World Championship next year as well, which will be announced later. It's great to see it. It's great, like, it's great to see Aaron now and Fuzzy getting into the World Championship, and like, I didn't know Aaron much before he got in with Oliver Salberg, and he's now really shining in front, and he's in with the big team and everything. And I'm going to miss that. And we got on well all year, and the racing all year. But they always say, "Why would you retire?" I said, "I'm 44 now." I said, "Aaron, you're 27. James, you're 30." I said, "All these boys in their early 30s." I said, "Would you be here in 15 years' time and doing a 16-year, 17 in Aaron's case?" Yes. And even I was on to Martin Tannick's man. He's 33, and Martin, and what would you call him, Belgian Martin with Nagle. He's only 30 as well.
Right.
They're a great bunch of lads, and as you said, the academy in Ireland now has progressed with drivers and co-drivers, and the opportunities are there. People want to put in the work in, but I just felt that it had to come, and I found Sardinia this year extremely difficult. I came home a broken person. I was second overall. I couldn't wait. I could hardly get home. I was inside doctor's physio, the heat. I was sick that weekend anyway, which didn't help. Yeah. But only for John Rowan and Mick from M Sport, I wouldn't have finished the rally. I was changing race boots every 2 stages. My feet were burning. Right. I was waking up during the night with massive high. My heart rate was through the roof because I couldn't get the blood, my body temperature down. And I knew when I got home, I said, "Right, Paul, you need to have a chat with yourself here." And when I went on holidays, in between Estonia and Finland, or one of them anyway, and we had a big chat away, and I said, "Right, it has to come." And I spoke to Craig in Kenya. I said, "Right, there needs to be a replacement at some stage. Now, whatever, we need to look at it." And Craig will be, "No, we'll look at that later." And I said, No, we need to start looking now. We need to start looking sooner rather than later. That I wanted out. I need to go on my own terms. I need to get out. The results weren't going away, and I felt to just, and I wasn't comfortable. Yeah. And just surrounded in the car and everything. There's a lot more as well behind the scenes. And my kids were at an age as well that I had to stop at some time. Yeah, for sure. And I'd given it so much, and to go out in a factory team in a factory car on my terms is important too. Like, but it took a while. I was like, after Estonia, Finland, and then New Zealand, I think we really nailed it down that James would be the man to go forward. And he was in the academy. He was working with Josh. He was learning the rallies, and he felt he was the man. Put him in for a test, and like, that's the people don't realise the amount of testing goes on behind the scene, the resources. And my body wasn't recovering quick enough. And before, like, I was bouncing out of a rally, going straight to the next rally, but you're going testing, and it's another 3. Every test is 3 days away. And for my own wife and my own, the last 15 her life, her life was put a pause, and I put everyone else's life's a pause. All my friends, mates, weddings, funerals, 20th, 21st, 40th, everything. I could do nothing. They had to work around me, and it felt that now was the time to go. And I can't even go without saying, like, when I announced my retirement, everyone, the month again, social media, oh, I got sacked by Malcolm Wilson, Craig Breen didn't want me, Ford didn't want me, I wasn't good enough. Like, can people not read between the lines?
No.
I've had, like, it's written down in black and white, I'm retired from the sport.
Yes.
And I have to put that in there. I was just going, geez, people, like, you need to grow up a small bit in some parts of the world. But
there's a life outside the rallying bubble, you know.
There is a life outside, and even people in the historics. Congratulations on retirement, but I still can't figure out how you would do it. I'm going, you haven't a effing clue, have you? It's not just about showing up on a Friday morning with your Red Bull race suit and your fancy Red Bull helmet, and going rallying for 3 days. Like, it's not just that. Like,
not the walk in the park it looks, you know.
But it's been like, on the other hand, it's been brilliant, and I've had the best friends. I'll miss the lads. I'll miss some of my great friends. I mentioned Aaron and Scott Martin. Myself and Scotty have been around together for years and years, and I'll miss the camaraderie, all those, and the friendships I built up with some of the drivers and co-drivers. But it all had to come to an end, and I thought Spain was the right place to happen.
Yeah, I could then there's that natural progression then that Fuzzy was able to step in then for Japan, and that he wasn't starting the new year cold almost kind of thing. So
that was the plan. Like, it was either it'd be very unfortunate, very hard in putting some James into like the Monte Carlo straight off at a new season, and it was either I do Monte or James does Japan, and I was happy enough to do. And I said I go to Japan, help James, and to be fair, they all worked well there, and Craig's happy with him. We've had a difficult year, all three of us, but sure, look, it's part of the game, and I've all the faith in Craig to bounce back, and he's had gone through enough during his rallying career that this is only a blip. This is he's not even blinky. This has been a rough period this year, and it's a bad run, and I wouldn't even consider him any problems, and he's back in Hyundai now next year and everything. So
yeah, we mentioned earlier, this steel that's in him. He has the adversity, but he never seems to let him get it down. He always seems to come back again, bigger and better almost every time.
Oh, he does. He will, and he will bounce back again next year. I have no question. He'll bounce back. Like, he doesn't need a full season to prove himself. He did it with Hyundai. Just things didn't work out a lot of the rallies this year. A lot of pros and cons he can speak about in years to come as well. It's not my place to be telling all the stories. So, but I think he'll progress, and I'll still go back in to do a few rallies with him. I mean, when it's outside the World Championship, and do bits and pieces. Whether I put back on the helmet anytime in future, I don't know. I did historics last weekend. I thoroughly enjoyed it. With a great race, because it's hard to stop, but you need to know if I end up going to Galway, you'll end up in every rally in the country again.
Yes.
And if I'd like to do some other different things, I need to put something back into the sport. I'll try and get some of my licenses upgraded and put something back in that to the sport that's given me so much. It deserves it, and I've learned a lot on safety and everything, and I'll do other rides, but never say never. Like, and the boys think I'll be back co-driving. They always say by Portugal the whole World Championship settles down and I'll be back. But currently I don't. I'm very happy with my decision. I don't miss it. The week of Monty, it wouldn't be a great time to have a chat with me. I'd be probably pacing up and down the corridor here when you find time in Monty. But then when you realise you have to go to Sweden 3 weeks later and it's minus 20 or 30, and you have to take about 4 flights to get to a test and everything, you're going, I'm happy enough at home.
The feet up in front of the fire. Well, Paul, it's been an absolute privilege for myself, and I'm sure Conor will like that. My sentiments.
Oh no, absolutely! It's been a pleasure to listen to you, genuinely. And I suppose one last question for myself: when you look back at your whole career, what's the one standout moment for you? On
a international basis, winning Finland, there's nothing get close to it. And on a personal life, would be winning Killarney. It was always what I wanted to do. It meant a lot to me. There's been so many highs and lows. It's been just a roller coaster. I loved every part of my World Championship career: the good, the highs, the lows, the good times, the bad times, the enjoyment, the friends I met. I have memories. I wouldn't be a big trophy man. I'd have loved the memorabilia of model cars and like bits of wings and bits of doors. And I have a fantastic picture here signed by all the drivers when I retired in Spain. It means the world to me. All the World Championship drivers signed it with little comments. It's over there, a 3D picture of me that means more to me than any trophy. Like, I'm filling trophies in the garage, and that big picture there is just sitting there. So they're all moments that mean an awful lot to me, and obviously winning rallies as well. But it's just been proud to be an Irishman in the World Championship, and all the people that have spent so much time and money and effort to follow us around the world with myself and Kris and myself and Craig. Like, they've sacrificed their holidays and everything from supporting us and everything, and the support I got in Spain and everything. And this year it meant a lot to me, and it meant a lot that I've given a lot to the sport, which I probably wouldn't realise when you're sitting in this bubble at the World Championship for 20 years. But on a local front, yeah, winning Killarney was very special to me as well.
Yeah, Kevin, listen, could have sat there for another hour or more, listening to Paul, and in fairness, I actually did miss a chunk of it because I had a power cut in the middle of it, so we were lucky that we were able to keep the recording continuing. But yeah, I kind of dropped in and dropped out for a bit, so I missed a chunk and looking forward to listening back to it.
Absolutely, it was like, oh my God, but we got through, we kept calm. But again, thank Paul once again, for taking the time. It was a pleasure, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Please like, share, comment, rate, all those things. Gratefully appreciate it. And that's the first one of 2023. We thoroughly enjoyed 2022. And thanks to everybody that took part. It was mind-blowing, and if we can get half the coverage that we done last year, it'll be something else. But what a way to start the year. Onwards and upwards. Thank you very much. Thanks for listening, and speak to you all soon, and take care. Bye.